Hi everybody, you're watching this video because you've rented our Caravan on Camplify. Thank you for that. And this video is just about how to use the Caravan, a couple of things to understand about the different parts of it and how it functions, so that when you're using it, you know what to do and nothing's going to break, and hopefully you'll have a great experience with the van. So I want to start with the awning, because although this will be set up for you, especially in summertime when storms come through, there might be a need to take it down, and so I want to go through how to set up the awning, and then I'll show you a couple of other little bits and pieces. So the awning is pretty simple to set up to start with, but I'm also going to show how we put on the anti-flap kit as well. So we start with the two sides of the awning. You flip up the safety latch, and then there's a black knob at the back that you just have to undo and loosen up, and then that's ready to go once you slide up the control for opening the awning. You do the same thing, the exact same thing on the other side, and then we're going to pull the awning out from the middle using the step ladder. So there's a little black tab up at the top. You use the step ladder to step up, and then you just pull the awning off its rocker and you pull it all the way out. Now once the awning's been extended as far as it can go, you slide the support rails up till they click, and you do that on both sides. And then you grab the white handle here and you push each side out, and there's actually a mark on the inside of the bar as to where it should go. I like to leave one side slightly lower than the other, and usually this back end I put one hole below the mark, and then on the front end I put it on the mark, and then water drains off on an angle. So you just push this up to the spot that you need it, and you do the exact same thing to the other side. We don't take our awning off the van, so it stays as the frame, just because it's probably the strongest and the most supported that way. So once you've got both sides up and you've got it in the position that you need it in, little trick to keeping the actual awning nice and tight is to actually, before you tighten the support rail, is to actually pull down on the corner here, and when you pull down it just stretches that awning out, and then you reach up and you tighten that, and then that is locked in place. And you do the exact same thing on the other side as well. So once the awning's set up and you've tightened up the two sides, this awning then has two middle supports that attach to the Caravan. Really easy to use. Just unscrew the knob that allows you to lengthen the rod, hook it into the little hook thing on the Caravan, slide it across into the hole on the bar, and then tighten it right up. And then you do the other one. That's the awning set up with no anti-flap kit, nice and taut and ready to go. So now I'm going to put the anti-flap kit on, and it's important just to see how this goes on and comes off, because in the event of a really severe storm coming through, it may be the smart thing to do to take the anti-flap kit off and put the awning all the way down, just so that the awning doesn't get damaged. So let's do the anti-flap kit now. Okay, the anti-flap kit comes in two parts, and there's actually there's four parts altogether. They go together, so you've got one anti-flap piece for each side, and to work out which side is which, they're actually numbered. So each piece has a 1 and a 1, and the others are a 2 and a 2. So you just match them up and you slide it in, and there's a little knob on the middle that allows you to tighten it up, and you'll have to adjust that once the kit's on. So the way that you know that that the kit is on the right side is when you pull these little black flaps open, or handles, sorry, and the flap opens, and that flap goes on to the awning. So the hook goes into the hook on the van, and then you line it up so the flap is facing the awning. So this one here is for the other side, And I didn't know that until I set it up. So let's set up the other one and then I'll show you how it goes on. Okay, so now that I've got the right one, I've got it all together. I've opened it up and you can see that the flap on the top is gonna trap that edge of that awning. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna hook it into the hook on the van. And then what I do is I'm gonna have to just open it up into the slot on the awning. And you can see there, it doesn't have to be super tight. You just spread it out till it is in the hole there on the bar, and then tighten up that, and then that stays nice and tight. And then what you do is you get up on the stool and you sort of grab the flap and push it down onto the awning, and then you just clamp the anti-flap kit shut, and you do that on both bars, and that's it. And you can see that awning now is nice and tight, clamped in. It's not going to flap in the wind, and you're ready to go. You do the exact same thing on the other side, and that's the whole awning set up. So now let's look at pack down, because this is the part that if you're renting from us, you'll have to do if there's a storm and you need to pack the awning down. It'll come set up when you arrive, but at least now you know how to set it up, so that if you do have to pack it down, you can set it up again. So it's just the reverse. First thing you do to take this down is anti-flap kit gets undone. Loosen the bar, take it out of its take it out of the bar on the awning there. Now this can be a bit tricky depending on how much this is moved around. It can get tight, so what I normally do is just once I've gotten one end out, I tighten it back up, and sometimes you gotta sort of bring it down and just feel it till it loosens, and then it should just pop out, and that bar is now off. And you do the exact same thing to the other side, get the anti-flap kit off, and now we're packing the awning back down, which is a reverse of setup. So first thing we're going to do is remove the 2 support bars in the middle, and then we'll pack the awning down. All right, so I've got the support bars out. They're now taken off, and now it's just time to pack the awning down. So first thing to do is to loosen the support bars up here, undo the knob here, and then there's a little button on the end of the end of the awning there that you just press, and that just pulls out, and you slide that all the way down. You do the exact same thing to the other side, and once both support bars have been brought down, then it's time to just bring the awning in. So you grab the bar here. Now you do want to be careful. You don't want your fingers in here because you'll pinch them. You just hold the bar, pull back, and it'll come down. And you just want to make sure that clicks in. Do the exact same thing to the other side. And once you've done that, then it's time to put the awning in. So what I'm going to do is just move the awning lock to down, which means the awning can go in. And if that's really tight, I can just pull on the little contraption up at the top, and that's ready to then go in. So I'm going to grab the strap. I'm going to come to the middle of the awning. I'm going to make sure my step is just below where the speaker is on the van, and then I'm going to roll that awning in. And this awning doesn't roll particularly fast by itself, so you sort of keep a bit of pressure on the strap and roll it with your hand, and it gets nice and tight. And once it gets up to the top, just step up on the stool, and we're just pulling that all the way in. Now when we get to the top there, we do just want to sort of push this onto the rocker, and that'll bring both sides in. Once that's in, you just want to lock that off and tighten the black screw cap on the back there. And that's the awning done. Once you've done both sides, you're good to go. That's nice and secure in a storm, and you can bring that back out once the storm has passed. Again, with the anti-flap kit on, if it's not anything serious, you probably don't need to worry about it. Even some moderate rain and wind is probably okay, but if there's a really bad storm coming through, and there's been severe storm warnings, and you see other people thinking about bringing their awnings in, it's probably a good idea just to be safe and undo all that anti-flap kit and then get the awning in, just so that you don't have any damage on the awning because of a storm. Okay, let's look at a few other things that you need to know about the van. Really simple ones now. That was the most complex piece of equipment that you're going to need to know how to use. So let's just go inside and have a look at a few other things. Okay, so windows are really straightforward. They've got some basic locks, so when you want to open a window, just undo the locks, and then they're on little struts that'll hold them in position. To operate the screens actually pull down from the top and they clip in on either side, and once those are clipped in, the screen's ready to go, and you can actually use the blocker by squeezing the middle all the way up, but it's got positions as well along the way. Just need to be careful when undoing a screen that you don't let it snap up, because you can actually damage the mechanism in the screen. So you just put your fingers on the top of the screen bit and you undo this latch here, and then those will unhook, and then you can just let that up. If you don't do that, that'll snap up and you can damage the screen. So here we have both our inverter switch and our hot water switch. So we also store coffee mugs up there. So you can see up in this cabinet above the fridge, this is our gas hot water heater. So if you're on power, then your hot water is pretty good just on the 240, but if you're got kids and you're showering a lot, you may want to turn the gas on as well, because the gas will heat the hot water faster than the electrical by itself. So that's just an on switch here, or obviously if you're off grid and you're not plugged into 240, then you're going to need this on to have hot water. So you just turn that on and it'll automatically fire up the gas hot water system. If for some reason there's no gas or something's wrong, this light will come on and tell you that something's not working. You just turn that back on, turn it off. You might go and check that the gas is, the tank is open, or maybe gas has run out and you got to switch tanks. But if you just turn that off and then turn it back on, it should reset. Beside that is the inverter switch. So if you're off grid and you need 240, there's a number of 240 volt outlets that you can use. There's one under the club lounge. There's one on the side of the washing machine to be able to use the washing machine if you have water connection but you're off grid, and there's one in the bathroom. And as far as 240 goes, those are the only 240 plugs that will work in the van if you're off grid. Obviously if you're plugged into 240 power, then you don't need the inverter on at all, and you don't need to worry about that. So that's the inverter, and to turn it on, you just hold it down, you'll hear a beep and the green light will come on. That means your 240 plugs are now working. To turn it off, again, say hold it down, it beeps, the light goes off, you're good to go. This one's really easy. Just with the fridge, there's actually latches on the fridge to stop them from swinging open. So when you open the fridge, you just got to make sure that you pull the little latch and then open the fridge. And there's one for the freezer as well. Easy. All right, the trusty toilet. Really important that you know how to use the toilet. So really simple. The toilet's on a lever here, so all the way towards the mirror to the right is closed, and then to the left is open. So you want to make sure it's open when you're using the toilet, and then the flush is over here. You press the button and that'll flush the toilet. There's cleaner and a brush there if it's needed, but that's the toilet. And then just make sure that when people are done with the toilet, you close it, otherwise you're gonna have some nasty smells that eventually come out of there. This plug here on the wall, just to point out, that's the plug that works on the inverter. If the inverter's not on, that plug won't work, the one that sticks out a bit. The other plug next to it, that's just a 240 volt plug. So if you're plugged into power, that plug will work with the extenders in there. With the vacuum actually runs on a Makita battery, and so it's ready to go. You can just leave the battery in the vacuum. The vacuum doesn't actually click into this holder there, it's just with the Makita battery, so you can just set it there, and then if you really want to, you can take the battery out and slide it into the side. There's a battery charger just up above the counter here that you can plug in to charge that battery if it dies. And that's the bathroom. All right, so this is the control center of the van. We really only need to know how to use this to turn the water pump on and off if we're off grid, or check the level of our tanks if we're not connected to water. So if we're on 240 volt and we're plugged in at a caravan park, then we don't really need to use this. Just pointing out these two switches here, please don't touch these. One open slides the club lounge out, and if you play with that and bring the club in and out, then you can actually damage the motors, and that's not great. And the battery switch is sort of like a mains power, we don't need to touch that. So on our solar panel here, the main thing is the water pump here. You can see if you're off grid, the water pump tells you its status, so it's off at the moment. If I press the drip icon at the bottom, that turns the water pump on and you're good to go. You can see here the tank levels. So at the moment our two tanks are almost empty. They only really measure in like quarters, so I doubt they're totally empty, but you can tell that you're getting low. If the tap starts to sputter and hiss, then you're getting air in the line. That means the tanks are definitely empty and you need to stop using the taps. Our waste tank there, if we're connected to mains water, we don't need to worry about any of this, and that waste should never fill up because the tank is open and it's just draining into the drainage that's provided at the caravan park. But if you do see that go right up to the top, it means there's a blockage in the system, and we need to start to think about that. You can totally ignore the battery levels on this monitor. They're not accurate because we're on lithium batteries, and this monitor is designed for AGM batteries, so don't worry about the battery levels at all. You'll have plenty of battery if you're off grid because of the amount of solar that's on the roof. The aircon system is really simple. You can control it from the buttons here, but you have no sort of specific controls. So best thing to do is use the remote. It tells you temperature and you can turn it on and off and do everything from the remote, so that should be really straightforward. Using the stove is really simple. You just lift up the cover. All of the burners are gas. There's a starter on the right hand side, so pick your burner and you light it up. If you want to test whether the gas is working, maybe you're worried you ran out of gas, the stove is the place to do it. If the stove doesn't light, then you're out of gas. Obviously, give it a few seconds for gas to run through the line, but if you're sitting here for 30 seconds and the stove hasn't lit, then you're probably out of gas on the front of the van, and you just need to watch the video on how to swap that over. The oven is really straightforward. You've got temperatures here on this dial. You need to make sure that the lid is up to use the oven, and we store trays and stuff in the oven, so just make sure you pull stuff out that you don't want to use for cooking before you turn the oven on. And it's gas at the back, so you can see that it's working. Pretty straightforward. Light switches are pretty simple. All the lights, most of them are on buttons. The only main off switch is here. That turns every single light off, and then you can turn lights on by pressing the buttons. Some of the lights that turn on, like this one here, they actually have two settings. One's blue and the other's white, and the center is off. So if you turn a light on and it doesn't go on, chances are someone's turned it off at the switch, and you just need to go and flick it back on, and then you can see that light there works on the button. It is important to just quickly show you how to lock the door, because this is often where things can go wrong, and you can lock yourself out of these vans if you don't lock the door properly. With these keys, it is a little bit finicky. If you push them all the way in, the lock doesn't work. You just need to pull it back a little bit and you'll see that then the lock spins. So it's really important that when you put a key in or take the key out, it's always in the vertical position. If you turn the key one way or the other and you pull it out in the horizontal position, it will pull out, but you'll then lock yourself out of the van, and it can be a little bit of a pain to get back in. So please make sure that when you lock the van up, you always come back to the vertical position to pull the key out. So you can see all the way to the left unlocks the van and the door is open, all the way to the right locks the van, the handle goes in, and then you just got to come back to the center and pull the key out. Right, unlock, just pull it back a bit so it unlocks, and then you're good to go. Again, back to center to pull out, easy peasy, and you won't lock yourself out. To release the screen, if you want the door open but the screen closed, you just lift up on the inside handle, and that will release the door, and you can latch the door to its latch on the van. These are the gas bottles on the van. You can see there's two of them. You really shouldn't have to worry about this, but if you end up just being unlucky and one of them empties, the other one will always be full. So you know which one you're using based on the blue switch here. You just need to make sure that the gas bottle is all the way to the left to be on, and that the blue knob there is pointing to that bottle. If you do run out, just turn that bottle off, switch the blue knob to the other side and turn the other bottle on, and you'll be good to go. Okay, the toilet cassette, maybe the dreaded toilet cassette, especially if you've never done this before. It's quite the experience. So when you empty the toilet, it's actually important. There is an indicator light that goes on inside where the flush button is, but sometimes that doesn't work. So it is important that you just make sure you're not overflowing the toilet, because that is a really messy job to clean up if the toilet actually overflows into the compartment on the side of the van. So I'm going to show you how to empty the cassette, and then I'll show you where it goes in and out of the compartment on the van. So emptying the cassette is pretty straightforward. You're going to pull it out of the compartment, and it's going to be fairly heavy. So when you pull it out, you do want to be careful, but I'll show you how to do that in a second. And you'll obviously pull it to the dump spot. When you get to the dump spot, you want to put the handle back in, and you want to make sure that you've opened the cassette. So you take the cap off here, you set it aside, and then before you dump, it's really important that when you dump this cassette, you press the button on the bottom here, and this is just clean water in there, so there's no problem there with it leaking. You don't want to press it when it's up like that, because you can see, as we just saw, the contents will start to leak out. So when you dump, before you actually tip it down, you press the button on the end, and then you dump it the waste out of the nozzle there. But if you don't press that button, there's no air getting in behind the waste, and you'll get a big glug splash back, and nobody wants that splashing back up in their face. So that's the cassette, pretty easy. Once you've emptied it, there's usually a hose by the empty station. I just fill the cassette with hose through this nozzle. I do it about 3 times. Once you put a bit of water in, you don't need to put the cap back on. You just fill it till it's maybe like a quarter full, and then you swish it around like this, and then you dump it again. And I do that about 2 or 3 times till what's being dumped is just clear water. And then once you've done that, I actually open the main hatch of the cassette, slide the grey thing back, twist the orange thing to open it, and I fill the cassette up using the hose just till I can't. There's a little square piece of plastic in view at the bottom of the cassette, and I just fill the cassette up until the water's just covered that little bit of plastic at the bottom there, and that's enough to then add your chemicals and be ready to go with a new cassette. All right, when you're ready to empty the cassette, you undo the latch. Here the cassette is actually locked in to its receptacle. So you lift up on the orange handle, and you can pull the cassette out. Sometimes that orange handle will pull out if you lift it too high, but that's okay. Just use the handle to pull it out, and then put the handle back in. And then you want to make sure that you pull this out, and it's heavy, so the other end needs to be supported. So I'll usually just grab it here, and then I'll put it down on its end like that, and then I can pull it to the dump point. When you're putting chemicals back in, you'll have dumped it, you'll bring it back to the van, open the cassette up, and then here's our chemicals, and all we do is take the lid off the side that has the little compartment, and then we squeeze 75 mils into that compartment. And so you just squeeze and squeeze, and just below the 80, and that's all you need for a cassette. Once you've got that, you just dump it in. Put that lid back on, close up. You need to make sure that you close up the lid there and slide the grey thing back in, and then you give it a bit of a swirl and you push that all the way in, and you just make sure that that locks back down, and you're good to go. Toilet's done, ready to use again. And that's our van. I hope that that was a helpful video, and you can refer back to it if you need to. Obviously, when you're renting the van, if you have any questions, I'll always be available and can help out by message or phone call. Thanks very much for watching, and we hope you really enjoy your experience with our van. Cheers.